Let's jump into this show with breaking open a golden age comic book. What do you got there, Jeff?
Yeah, the book we're going to crack out here is War Against Crime number 11.
Oof.
Yeah, this is a classic EC book. It's the first EC horror cover and the second appearance of the Vault Keeper.
Vault Keeper is a major horror character from the 1950s. Can you explain his impact?
Yeah, so most people know the Crypt Keeper from Tales of the Crypt, who narrates the story. So the very next issue is issue 12, and that's when the title changes to Vault of Horror. And the Vault Keeper is the one who narrates the stories through that title.
This right here marks his second appearance, so that's why it's a key. But it also is right before the title change, which is why it's called War Against Crime. And we have this like horror cover. I mean, we have mummies attacking an archaeologist.
So that, coupled with it being the first EC horror, plus the grade it's in at a 9.0, off-white to white pages, just makes it a coveted book.
All right, that's where we got to start this conversation, because we're going to crack this today. We're going to dissect this comic book. We're going to learn some things because it's a restored comic book. This is an old label. Can you explain to the community what an old label? That's a term that you hear a lot in the comic book market.
Yeah, that term gets thrown around too loosely right now, and I want you to take a look at this label specifically. That is more of a first-generation label. Okay, this book was encapsulated January of 2001. That's 1 year after CGC came on to scene. All right, so we're talking about an early time when they're still trying to figure things out. I mean, there was even a time when their labels didn't even have page qualities on them, okay? So this is what it means when it's an old label, because the grading was far stricter, and so was the restrictions on page quality.
There's two ways you can check to see if you're dealing with an old label. The first is, well, you're dealing with an old label because you've seen them so many times. Over time, CGC changed it, for marketing reasons. The other is you can actually look up your comic book, which will help you for a couple different reasons.
Yeah, by typing in the number, and you can do that on their homepage. If you scroll down to the bottom, you can put in the certification number, or you can go to cgccomics.com/cert lookup, and it'll pull up general information about the book, its publication date, the title of the issue, and when it was encapsulated.
So I want to ask you, Jeff, this is a purple label. This is not something you typically bring to this table for us to discuss. I want to know why a purple label, specifically, like, why did you buy this? I want to know, was this like part of a deal? What's the purpose behind this comic book?
I mean, I already know it's an old label.
Right.
But looking up the information, which I like to just do because sometimes you'll get free notes that you don't always get. When
it validates it.
Validates it, maybe to give you a little more information of what's happening on the inside. And I saw the date was 2001, January. That's 1 year after CGC hit the scene.
Right.
Okay, so that's pretty early.
Yeah, this is strict grading, likely.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many were graded by then. That's got to be like the first 3, 4, 5 copies.
So we're dealing with an old label. That's intriguing enough. But it's also purple. You mentioned you don't typically pick up purple labeled comics, and that's because this is restored. There are some things that have been done to this comic book and some terminology we're going to be able to go over today.
In particular with this book, we're going to discuss some of the restoration and what it really means. Okay, we have a cover clean on there. We have a reinforced cover, and we also have tear seals to the centerfold. So we're going to take a look at all that. We're going to really kind of let you guys know how to find these things, differentiate what is, what isn't, and the materials that are used are going to make a big difference. That's also going to put a fine line between conservation and restoration. And truly that's different, especially when you talk to specialists, okay? We spoke to Phantom Restoration on Instagram, all right? He's done some work for me, and he did a great job and truly understands the trade and the art of both restoring books, pressing, and all that encompasses it.
We have the highest graded restored copy on the census right here today. Let's crack it open and take a peek inside the slab.
Give me my drill. Give me my blowtorch.
It's only worth $1,000. Will you please hurry?
All right, I need a razor blade. like wet.
Is it wet? It's so hot, man.
No.
This is what happens when you deal with comic books. You get all hot.
This is what happens when you deal with comics in a sauna.
In a sauna.
Oh my god, my hands feel tacky.
All right, I'm holding the label of War Against Crime number 11, graded at 9.0, because we have cracked it open. We have dissected the comic book, and let's see what we've learned. We have some terms here. It's written on the label. Cover reinforced. What does that mean, Guru, and what does this comic book have?
First thing we're going to go over is cover reinforced. That's on there. Now, it doesn't have to just be a cover, okay? And reinforcing a book could be at a centerfold. It could be anywhere inside the book so that it structurally becomes more solid.
How do people do that?
So there's going to be multiple ways, and they're going to either put you in a conservation type label, which is a gray label if you end up getting it graded.
More preferred,
or a purple label, which is restoration considered.
That would be like tape and stuff?
Yeah, tape won't get you a purple, but it'll be using things that are not archival material. And there's a very fine line between what archival material is. Well, not really a fine line, but there is a distinction between the two. So one's really going to preserve the book long term. Others are going to be more detrimental in long term type concepts. So tape is very bad for a comic, ultimately. There's things called archival tape, which is better. And so when you use certain materials for books, like another pulp, let's say you make pulp, you're actually making paper to add to this paper, then that's a good thing long term. But you start using foreign substances, certain glues, certain other types of papers, then you're going to get a restored label versus a gray label.
So what in particular is going on with this example? Because we have right here, cover reinforced.
So generally, when you're looking for that type of stuff, you're going to look for signs of it, which is generally at structural places like the staples. So you want to really look at them for tape, glue, anything really that seems like it's unnatural to the book, whether you're going to feel for maybe a hard, crunchy area. Is it a quick tell that there's glue when you're running your fingers up and down?
That's why you see a lot of these collectors touch the spine up and down. It's that tactile feeling because it's going to let you know if there's potential restoration.
You will not be able to tell if a book is restored or not with 100% confidence without having it in your hands bare, because on top of that, you have to feel the paper quality to see if it's been through anything else like we mentioned there, which is like cleaning.
Before we get to cleaning, though, let's show them what's going on with this book in particular.
This is a slight professional, so it's very, very small, all right? And it can be very hard to tell. And even now looking at it, I'm not even 100% certain this is it because I don't know the degree of work that was done. But when we look inside, there seems to be this hard line that potentially could have been broken. And when you look at it, it looks like there should be a white line. When you see a break on a cover and there should be white there and there isn't, generally something's been done. Okay? If there should be a color break and it's not there, then either it's been color touched or somehow been altered.
And that's a very common defect from a comic from that era.
Yeah, I mean, like it's been read. You know, generally if it's red or cracked open,
that top
you know,
one.
And depending if the staples aren't on center, like literally on the spine, they're off, then you're going to get weird lines in certain areas. And these staples aren't perfect, but you can tell here when you open it that there's this line that should be a white line from a color break, but it's not. So that's the first thing that you notice here, and you should always inspect.
All right, the next thing on here that I want to discuss, you alluded to it, the book has been cleaned. Now, we chat about cleaning comics all the time. If you follow me at ComicTom101 on Instagram, sometimes I'm actually doing tutorials, taking my erasers, and doing some dry cleaning. What's the difference between dry cleaning and a cleaning that would get you this type of label? Because this book has been cleaned.
Yeah, so the dry cleaning that you've mentioned is generally like removing dirt, surface dirt, certain things on the book, and that is not considered restoration. Okay, that's a practice thing that everybody does, but this is different. With a clean like this, it becomes more of a chemical clean. It's actually most of the time the book will be disassembled, all right, and soaked in a liquid.
It's like some type of solvent gets included.
Right, and so what the purpose is of that is to really change the life of the book and the pages. So if it's light, tan, and brittle, it will rejuvenate that and add more life to them again. And that's why most of the time it will be conserved grade when it comes to cleaning, because you're actually increasing the longevity of the book's life now. You're like resuscitating it.
But at some cost. How do you know that this has been cleaned? Because man, I can tell you one thing. I can smell it from here.
Smell is definitely one way to tell that a book has been cleaned. There's kind of it's not an old paper smell. It's more of a bleach and paper mix smell. So when you smell your cover or even the book in certain areas, you will know that it's not normal.
This is why you see people smelling their comics, Comic Fam, on the con floor. We're not just all weird trying to get that musty smell into our sinuses. No, we're actually checking for things there.
And another way to tell is that the texture of the cover, if it was the cover, because the paper's pulp. Okay, we mentioned that. And then the cover is got a little more clay mix to it. So it gives it that shine. It's different. But that changes. The paper's almost thinner and lighter after it goes through that process.
It doesn't feel like a normal Golden Age comic.
Yeah, generally it's going to be a tad rougher. You know, there won't be as necessarily as much gloss as it should be. And like I said, it's a little bit more, feels a little more light. But that smell and the combination of both are just a good way to deduce that something's been done to it. I mean, holding this book, it feels like a brand new newborn comic. You know, I mean, the pages are off-white, might even get a white designation to them. Look at that.
It looks like a reprint. It doesn't look like it's old.
Yeah, there's no haloing. There's no type of light tanning inside. Nothing crazy like that. This book just feels fresh. It's just not something that's common to have in your hands for this type of age of book. Generally, I'm dealing with like maybe a very good plus copy of this thing, not a 9.0 feeling, version of it.
I mean, look at that first page if you open it up.
Yeah, check it out, man.
Yeah, because like what I'm looking at here is this first page, how gorgeous this Vault Keeper looks like. This page looks like it was just off the press, but it's also a little too nice. Red flags would come up if you're starting to see something this nice. Now, what I want to talk about now is the final thing, the thing that you got to be worried about the most, and that is tear seals. That's added paper. Foreign matter being incorporated into your comic book. What's going on?
Generally, the nice thing about tear seals is they're usually pretty easy to identify. Okay, so when we go through this book, we're going to see that in the centerfold where the tear seal is, okay, you can tell that a piece that looked like it was completely detached has been repaired and inserted back in the proper position. And we'll see here, and when you shine a light on it, and it doesn't have to be a black light, okay, but we have a black light here, which is really helpful for locating foreign other matter and papers added. So when you add paper to these things, like a process called leaf casting, where you basically rebuilding the book, you can identify this. It'll look like a DNA scene or a murder scene at a on any type of your CSI shows. Yeah,
you can see like a line, like this faint outline of shine around this stain that makes me assume that this piece of paper was either added to it or was repaired in some way and then like attached with some type of glue.
Yeah, that's the most common material you're going to see is glue. That's put on here. And generally, if it's amateur, that's what it is. Otherwise, when it's professional, like I said, they use proper materials that you're not going to feel. Like, I don't feel hard glue. I see the shine of a material on here. But when someone uses glue, it's hard, it's crunchy, you can break it. And a little hint here, guys, if you have tear seals on your comics, okay, and if they're actually sealing the tear, that's going to be restored. But if you break that tear seal, it's no longer going to be a restored book because it's not doing anything.
That's right. It's a tip, but it's one you have to be very careful to do because we are talking about collectors making their comic apparently look worse for the sake of bringing them back to the way that they were initially are, pre-restoration when they were damaged.
Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation because when you start talking about trying to remove some of this restoration, it's a fine line of what can be really brought back to its original state, and you might not like what you see. Granted, it might be different market value, but you might have a black cover that's got all this color touch to it. It looks amazing. But when you get the color removed, you're either going to have holes in it or huge scrape lines all along the front cover. And that's something, since it's your book, you have to make that decision with. And just know that it's not always going to be a slam dunk. Not everything's reversible. Okay. And there's a reason why there's different tiers of between amateurs and professionals.
All right. So my last question for you, because we've gone over some great terminology. Has this book been pressed?
This book has not been pressed. Okay.
Oh, dude, that's pretty cool. Like, I know there's a stain on the inside. It's going to be tough getting above a 9.0 for that grade bump, but there's a chance, man.
I don't know if it will or won't, whatever. But the nice thing is this has changed. Time has changed with this book. It's no longer possibly just a purple. This could be a conserved book now. So there's a potential at a 9.0 conserved opposed to a 9.0 restored because they did not have conserved labels at that time. So depending on what the materials were used, it says professional on there. There's a chance it could be conserved. You know, we'll find out because I'll press it, I'll submit it. I mean, it'll be interesting just to see, guys, what happens when it comes back.
You got to be subscribed, Comic Fam. Hit that like button if you appreciate the fact that the guru is sharing this golden age knowledge. Yo, I think we got to come back to this table, not just for this book, but to chat about some more comic book, hobby stuff. I mean, maybe we can get, I don't know, a classic golden age comic that you're maybe rebuilding.
Yeah, guys, there's so much terminology and really we can get deeper. I'm just trying to give you an intro to it right now. And I'm sure there's a few things I've missed on, but I promise you we'll get back around. This is my next project right here. I have a Captain America Comics number 77.
Oh, dude, that's so sick.
That copy right there, okay, is missing the last page.
Oh, yeah, there's no page on the back here. Okay.
No, that's the coverless one I bought.
Oh, there's two.
There's two. Yeah. So I am going to Frankenstein this book, all right? So I have an incomplete there, all right? It's missing the back page. Not the back cover, but the last page to the book. So I'm either going to remove that cover and marry it, which means combine it to the coverless copy that's complete, or because the staples are so off on that one that it's going to be tough, I'm going to just take the first wrap of that complete one and marry it to the one that's missing the back last page.
So then you're going to send this to get graded and see if you can get that blue label.
I don't know what I'm going to do. No, I'm not gonna do.
I'm just kidding.
No. I'm just going to do it for a project.
What's the purpose behind this project? And Comic Fan, if you want to see him do it, let me know in the comment section below. He's going to bring it back.
I've never done it. I think it's just a fun opportunity to just take two pieces of history there that I have, make it into one.
Yeah, two incomplete pieces of history and make it into one complete one. Captain America issue 77 by John Romita Sr. Classic cover.